kind of guessing.
It's actually a shirt.
Oh, so
Shh.
guys.
So one of the guide's jobs is to observe what happens and praise you and offer questions. So that's what I'm going to offer to you at lunch this morning, is praise and questions. Setting you up for a town hall meeting at 11:30. You guys can. So we're going to go, this P's, 2 call this morning for P, we're going to actually go core skills until 10:30, outside free time 10:30 to 11. Oh, I'm sorry. Back that up. Outside free time is 11 to 11:30.
Okay.
Core skills goes until.
Is that Mason break, or can everybody participate in that free time?
No,
It's only on Monday through Thursday. So on Tuesday, Mason
Is 11
So
to
you guys are
11:30?
going to have to decide if you want to have rules of engagement or you want to have interruptions like every 30 seconds.
Yeah, I'm saying it's like.
I'm not though. I mean, I'll let you. You guys can decide whether you want to enforce rules of engagement or not. But if you want to have them, we'll have them.
Yes.
We will at 11:30 town council meeting. At 11 to 11:30, we'll have outside time. So you guys can blow some steam, and then we'll be quiet core skills until then.
Will you have Mason there? Wait, that's instead of Mason.
Oh, wait, no.
Sarah, look. There's a schedule right there. 8:30 to 11 plus skills, 11 to 11:30. Was going to be PE, but it's too cold, so now it's just free time. It's not
Guys.
Oh, I can see this juices.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm too.
Okay.
Hold my hand on.
Basically, that's
So it's a guy's job to praise and ask questions, and I'm going to praise you and ask you questions to set up your town hall meeting. Praise is, observation is, yesterday we went from tyranny and oh my gosh, I can't get anything done, to anarchy. Pausing maybe for a millisecond in flow, but not very long. And so it was issues like, we hate the king, we can't get anything done. But the issue question is, why? What do you think, Nikita?
Actually, I think we went all the way to anarchy. We still went slow for a long time because, long time. And I was,
So you think we actually were up in here?
yeah.
I think we were in both for the end part of the day, but we were in anarchy before lunch and during lunch. After we started moving our desks around and got situated, I feel like we started getting more.
So something pretty amazing happened. However long we paused up here, you rebounded on your own, back up here. A lot of it had to do with realigning the desk and moving. And one of the things, so I thought that was interesting to observe. The questions are, what happened? What caused that? And this kind of putting up a curtain and free seating. Is that mine? I'm so sorry, guys. Okay,
Smash it!
and that's, no, you guys can decide on the penalty for that. Can you believe it or not? Not supposed to. But you guys can decide on the penalty. So something happened here. Part of it was kind of dividing up the classroom and each seeking your own place, each finding your own clarity.
I still don't understand.
Yeah, do you think that's us?
It's a tool. I mean, it's a tool for you to use as you see fit, but not.
Can someone like re-describe what anarchy and tyranny means? Because I forgot which one.
Anarchy is, well, tyranny is when you have a dictator, and the anarchy is the no rules. And also about the games, I was kind of thinking about it after school, and I think that it's kind of a visual barrier, so when you look around the room, instead of seeing all this stuff on the other side of the room, it's distracting. It's like, I was
If you think of the civilization challenges we've done and the tapes we've listened to, what happened yesterday? We went from one group into separate groups. What does that remind you of? This is a leading question. It's not a good Socratic question. Which of, if any, did it remind you of, Jack?
the tribal experiment.
So the tribal experiment, we broke into tribes.
I don't know if this is historically accurate, but all the Indian tribes that roam around.
Right? Indian tribes broke up, were easily conquered after that, right? what's civilization like that reminds you of? We've done. Think through all the different experiences we've done. So let me just ask you this, is it better to be individuals with rights, tribes, and small groups, or one group? Not a right answer to that. Which one do you think, Craig?
I would like to make one group because you get to know each other and everybody like is born and everybody is friends.
Where?
I feel like I disagree with Peyton. I feel like in the nation, if one person is being Socratic or being very distracting, then it gets the whole thing off. So I'm more towards the individual side.
Kenzie, what do you thought?
I agree with Creighton and disagree with Claire. I feel like the better one's the nation, and I feel like right now the class isn't really a nation because not everyone really is together. I feel like maybe last year we were, but more towards the end of the year, and I feel like we can all be a nation. But I disagree with what Claire said. She said one person's like being distracting, but really the other people in the nation would pull that one person and tell them. So that wouldn't happen.
William.
I agree with Creighton and Kenzie. I think if people are in a group together, we can understand each other. And it's kind of like the United States, we're all like working together as a team so we can get to know better and also
I want to stay on this note. Is the United States one nation? Is the United States 50 states? Or is the United States 300 million individuals with rights? Which is the United States? Which is the United States? Pace.
definitely individuals.
Why?
Because Creighton, if he wants to, or individual, everybody has their own freedom. You can do whatever you want.
Agree or disagree with this?
One nation
Under God is gonna
That's
say
what I
that.
was thinking of.
But
The
the
Pledge
Pledge
of
of
Allegiance says itself that we're in a nation. We have our individual rights, but we are a nation. Well, they're both
As
right.
I disagree with Pace and Mason. I don't think we are a nation, but we are 50 states, the United States
Yeah.
of America. And we kind of have like a little UN for states. We have the Congress and we have the House, and then each state has their own small government. And so I think each state is individual, but we're connected by a bond,
So tribes.
like
So-
glue.
So what you guys did yesterday, that I thought was really interesting, is you basically went from kind of this over time to a bunch of individuals, and it wasn't, there was a big fight going on kind of here, anarchy, and it's going towards anarchy. And then you reformed, and on your own, split up into states. Now, Abraham Lincoln said, wait a minute, you can't secede. In fact, Jack even put forth a proposal to secede and have a group leave and go to the high school where they can get away from the chaos, which is an interesting idea. And I'll tell you now that guys, because of the logistical things, we can't allow that, but it's an interesting question for the council. Will you set aside a part of the class where people can go to get what Jack is looking for, or should everybody live up to the standard? As leaders, you're going to have to decide that, Kenzie.
I think that's a terrible idea, especially for the leaders in the class to do that, because right now they're the council members and they're the ones wanting to go to high school to get away from the chaos. But yes, guys, seriously. But yet, but I'm not sure what was I saying?
So,
No, before that. Yeah, when really they should be dealing with the chaos in the classroom and all
Yeah.
that stuff.
They signed up to be the council members of this class, so I just don't know what it would say if they just went over there and left the class.
so I'm going to let you guys talk. I mean, it's up to you at the town hall maybe decide how you're going to fix this, but it's an interesting, one of the questions you're going to have to ask is flee or fix. I mean, what are we going to do? And another question is going to be, how are we going to handle this states issue? And then as real leaders, if you're ever a leader in your fix like this, I think there's two things you really have to ask. Why are we here? What are we trying to do? What's the purpose of why we're here? And then how are we going to go? And we're going to have this balance between nation, tribes, or states, and individuals. It's always going to be a battle. Now, the brilliant thing the founders did, and this may give you some guidance on how to think about the problem, the brilliant thing they did is when faced with these problems, and even with the Civil War, they had something called the separation of powers. Executive branch, legislative branch, judicial branch. Does anybody know what the three of these do? They each have a different job. And
I think the executive branch is the president.
well, what's he do? That's the president.
He's the one who, I never got this, so I don't know what he does, but I kind of know.
Okay, what do the other two do?
I know the legislative branch is more like the Congress and all that stuff, and
What do?
I think they make the laws.
They pass the laws.
They pass the laws.
Yeah.
And,
Thanks.
The judicial branch is court, so
So what do they do then? It's the courts. What do they do?
judge.
They uphold the laws.
They accountability.
They have their own judge.
They account on punishment.
So what's the president do, Sarah?
Well, the legislative branch makes the laws. The executive branch, which is the president, he either okays or vetoes the laws, and the judicial branch holds up the laws, make sure they follow them.
And the judicial.
So the president can veto and stop a law, but what's the executive branch? What's the word execute mean? Well, it means to kill. What else?
It's like execute, means make something happen.
Get it done. So the executive branch, really, the president can declare war, but he's got checks. He can only do so many things before he has to ask Congress for permission. If Congress passes a law that goes against the Constitution, the judges can rule it out of favor. So that's really cool. What's the downside of this kind of system? What could be some of the downsides? Charlie?
Corruptness.
Well, people can be corrupted. Charlie, is it easier or harder to corrupt this than a tyranny?
Way easier, or way harder, sorry. It's way easier to corrupt a tyrant and a monarchy because if the king becomes corrupt, he can pick corrupt people.
It's an interesting question, which is easier to corrupt. Now, what is true, though, is the judicial branch, you're not allowed, if you're a judge, if you have any conflict of interest, you have to recuse yourself. If your friend comes up, a judge, you have to say, hey, this is my friend or business partner. I can't judge this case. I've got to give it to Kobe, the next judge. Because I can't, I've got to be impartial. And so we had something really interesting happen yesterday when we had a really hard case with him. And we had Nikita, who had no choice because she's on the council, for example, said, hey, something's going on here. I mean, she missed it by this much. It was a computer. There were all these issues. And there's a famous saying that hard cases equal bad law. What that means is, if you try to pass laws for every single thing, it gets really complicated, particularly really hard choices. At some point, somebody's got to make a call. And it's really hard. And the council's got to make a call, but this is somebody that's my friend, and you're everybody's your friend. So you want to give them a break. So, but then we had another group, Charlie, Kenzie, people saying, hey, we got to enforce the rules exactly like they're written. My question for you is, what was Nikita and anyone that was with Nikita appealing to on the moral frameworks? Which one of these? Utilitarian. I'm going to spell right this time. Utilitarian. Which one of these was Nikita appealing to, and which one were Kinsey and Charlie and Al appealing to? Sarah?
Well, what was Nikita saying? Nikita was saying that she did it, so she should.
But by the way, there's not a right or wrong answer to this. These are different moral frameworks. That's what we're asking about. What?
Pretty sure that Charlie and Kenzie, those people would give justice equal for everyone, because just the way they phrase everything.
The law was upheld for us. It's got to be the same for everyone. Mason?
I agree with Claire on justice for Charlie and them, but for Nikita and all those people, I think it was love because they like that person, or they just feel that it's not fair, just don't think it's right.
So why wouldn't it right? What would be, if someone makes an honest mistake, for you personally, and you're gonna forgive them, what's that an act of? What would you call it? Love would be one.
Yeah, love.
Kindness, love.
Kindness, just sympathy.
Yep, sympathy, kindness. So here's interesting, these are definitions. If kindness is a virtue, it's kindness. It depends on how you define love. In this case, for this moral framework, we're defining love how Scott Peck did, which is saying I'm willing to invest in the growth of myself or others. In fact, that may mean doing a really hard thing that seems kind of mean if it's good for the long-term goals. So you have to ask ourselves, was it kindness or was it love? Sarah, it's unclear. I mean, we don't know.
I would say it was kindness, and actually I was kind of on the side too, just because I don't know how to, I would say it was kindness, not love, because I feel like if it was love, it would be more like tough love, trying to get everybody to learn the needs of those stuff on kindness, and the needs of not learning it. And I also kind of question, I forgot what utility was.
Cost benefit.
Okay.
Cost benefit. Cost benefit. It is.
I think it's a bit of love and utilitarian. I don't know if I can take both, but Hannah put a lot of work into it, the people said, and they wanted to see out her benefit and getting a smaller punishment for the.
So if we were to have argued, I could have made an argument, Hannah did great work, I want to see it and I'll learn a lot from it, and the whole class will. It's a shame to keep it bottled up. That would have been a cost-benefit argument.
No, wait, no. See it through, not like see it,
Right.
but make sure that it's good. Or it's
So-
not good enough, but.
So if my argument was, she spent a lot, we ought to see it because it's worth something, that's cost-benefit. The question here is, the reason I spend time on this is, you've got to decide when to apply these. So if you're in a judicial mode, which one do you apply? If you're in a friendship mode, which one do you apply? Again, not a right answer, something you guys are going to have to struggle with in counsel as individual leaders. Something you're going to have to decide tonight.
So for me, when I was thinking about Hannah, for me what I thought was, sometimes in Acton we ask the question, what is more important, the end result or the process? And I agree with the process side of it, and so I think the process was her writing it, so that's why I wanted her to be able to go, but I don't know which moral framework.
By the way, Hannah, this could have been anybody in here, it's not you. This example will come up 50 more times, and it's already come up 10, so we're obviously not talking about you personally, because this could have been anybody. Nikita.
Well, what I was thinking was, what matters more, doing the work or sticking a tag
Yeah.
on paper and posting it on?
Yeah.
So that could sound like a justice argument, but it's, because it sounds like, is it fair to her personally? But what happens when, this is important, what happens when you decide every individual case based on no moral framework? That's actually called relativism. I'm going to decide personally what's fair every time, and I'll make the call, and I'll decide which of these to use, and I won't even think about it. Right?
Well, to Nikki's point, I remember when I was my old school, I did all the homework and stuff, but I forgot it at home and didn't give it to my teacher, and then I remember the penalty was you didn't get recess or something like that. But that was what happened when we said.
Well, then, Kenzie.
Okay, my dad told me this story about this college student, and he
back to where I want to end, because I don't want to take you guys too long, but it takes us back to all of leadership starts with why we're doing this. And I brought you, and I don't want to hand it out now, so I'm going to finish, but I brought you what we actually give to new families that come to have active promises. Okay? So this is what we promise. This is the why we're here. We're here for you guys to become individual leaders. And if you remember that, though, is it most important that it's posted, that you did the work, that you learned? I mean, what's the most critical? It's the why. And as leaders, you guys have promised to that why. You've pledged yourself to the why. You've got to figure out with separation of powers how to do it. It's almost always going to have something to do with personal leadership. You're going to have to be willing to stand up. Probably appeal to first principles. What are the promises? Which is why, by the way, if there's ever you ever faced this as a council member, I'd go right back to this thing. I would quote from this if there's a big question. We all promise this. Are we violating any of these? Kind of Lillian's point. If these are our goals and our promises, this is kind of justice, I promise. If virtue and utilitarian are doing the right thing and becoming heroes and the cost benefit or getting the most out we can, what's the right decision here? Got to ask myself, what role am I in? If I'm a council member and I'm in a judge role, I got a really hard time, especially when I'm judging my friends. I got to be really careful about that. Or judging somebody I don't like. I've got to really be careful when I'm doing that, because now I'm in a judge role. I'm supposed to apply the law, period, and not make a lot of exceptions. But it's a really tough thing to do. And we're always going to have external checks, because the guides have promised on some of these, we have external checks. We can't have everybody in the high school because we don't have people to cover them. Or the elementary school is going to red card you. It's kind of like having somebody's going to invade you. You know, there's only, you have to have a military so you're going to get invaded. You have to be somewhat quiet because you're going to get a red card and lose eagle points. So as you guys are thinking about these decisions in your town hall meeting, it's really going to come down at the end to leadership, people being willing to decide why are we here. And I'd suggest at your town hall meeting, if you can't figure out the answer of why you're here, you're going to waste your time having a discussion. I mean, unless you decide why each of you are here. And also at the end of the day, we're going to take a poll within this week to say, you know, who's upholding the active promises. It's going to be anonymous. 1 to 5, rank all of your classmates. That's going to be a very interesting number for you guys to get individually. Because if everybody's running tie, we're in good shape. If some people are really outliers, at the end of the day, there's a lot of people that want the seats in here. Some people aren't going to make it. I mean, that's just that simple. So, but that's a difficult thing if you're going to let everybody split up into states and do what they want. If you've got a group of 3 that split off by themselves and don't do any work, they won't be here. Do you owe them out of love, some tough love? Or just let them go because it's too much trouble. You try really hard and they don't want to do the work and eventually they won't be here. That's because we've promised and we're going to have heroes. So you guys have to work that out. Yesterday, you did an amazing job of coming to an interim solution, letting everybody go out of the states. Some of you even wanted to secede. You may actually want to create a zone, Jack, like you guys. You may decide to create a zone where it's an absolute no-bother zone. The question is, are you then abandoning some people to not work? And if so, do you owe them any obligation or not? At what point do you say, done all I can, tough love, make it on your own? That's the challenge you guys have to work out. But I would encourage you to think about separation of powers, come back to first principles. Know that none of this works in personal leadership if some of you don't take up the task. I drew this because kindness and intentionality will always devolve into snarkiness and laziness. We're all human beings. That's what we do. Unless there's a lot of energy to kind of keep it bouncing back and down here, up to where you're kind, but you also take care of yourself as well as others. You're intentional, but you take time off for rest and reflection. I mean, this is staying up at the flow level. You are always going to find yourself going down here. That's why they're leaders. That's why you guys are being prepared as leaders, because you've got to figure out a way to take a group that's headed this way and bounce it back. We're not going to do that for you as guys. You've got to figure that individually. That's going to be your charge when you get together at 11:30. So, good luck this morning in core skills. I hope you think about this. You've got some big decisions to make at 11:30.